and we're excited to come back. We're going straight into our lifestyle daily, and thank you for always making time to join us right here. We're moving into something really exciting. We're keeping you inspired, entertained, and of course informed. Now we're going to the information part. Yes, we're going to study something right now on the AM Club.
Yes, of course. That's why we're slowing down from Yabitha's all tempo and everything,
Both of you.
Loving it from Kim Promise and, the composers right there. Slow down now. So now let's slow down.
Okay.
But yes, we're talking world celebration of, neglected tropical diseases. Who do we have in the studios? She's already looking pretty. So
I know. Joining us for this conversation will be Dr. Louisa Ademka Mate, public health physician specialist. Dr. Louisa, welcome to AM Club.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Feeling good?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm good.
ready for the conversation?
Yes.
World neglected tropical diseases.
NTDs. So straight off, what are NTDs?
Well, okay, so that's the abbreviation. So neglected tropical diseases.
Yeah.
And then you would ask why would name diseases like that?
Yeah.
The name was chosen because over the years it's been realized that these diseases have been wiped out in
Okay.
developed countries.
Okay.
And yet they persist in countries that are the poor of the poorest, marginalized countries that are, or communities that are isolated,
Okay.
sort of.
Okay.
So hence the name. The diseases are neglected. The countries or the communities that have to deal with them are marginalized and isolated.
Okay.
And we need to, with the name, probably it would help us unneglect them.
Okay.
And hence that's the name. So today we mark the day neglected tropical disease world celebration of the day. This is the fifth one actually.
This is the fifth
Yes,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the fifth one, and it started in 2019,
Okay.
where the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi at the Reaching the Last Mile. There's a forum called Reaching the Last
Okay.
Mile forum that goes to discuss health
Okay.
issues, world economic issues,
Okay.
and that sort of thing. Called for a global concerted efforts in fighting neglected tropical diseases. And about 350 partners at the time in 2019 signed up to it.
Wow.
So
That's
Ghana,
impressive.
yeah, it was really good. Ghana Health Service was one of the partners,
Okay.
and that's why I'm here, because I work with the Ghana Health Service.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And then Family Health International 360, as well as the USAID,
Okay.
are some of the partners that signed up onto that in 2019.
Okay.
And so we are doing this
Okay.
because we signed on to something that we think is a good
Okay.
thing. And we want to
You
continue
want to
marking the
continue.
day
Absolutely.
every year.
Awesome.
Okay.
What are the diseases that form the NTDs?
Right. So worldwide, there are a group of about 20 of them. In Ghana, we are endemic for 14 of those.
Okay.
Yes. And I'll start with some of the commonest ones that are endemic in almost every district, so that by the time I'm through, probably
Yeah.
I would have listed quite a bit for us. But every district in Ghana is endemic to at least two of these diseases. And the commonest ones are the soil-transmitted helminths, what we call worms.
Worms. Okay.
And then schistosomiasis, bilharzia, those that urinates blood and things like that.
Okay.
Yes, so we have soil-transmitted helminth, schistosomiasis. You've heard of leprosy,
Yeah.
Buruli ulcer.
The Buruli ulcer, is it the same as the stomach ulcer? Or
No. That's
different
a
type of-
skin condition.
Okay.
That's a skin condition.
does it look
You
like?
have it's more large skin. So you have this almost the whole patch of a leg, and you have, a wound that is non-healing, like
Non-healing.
it's an
Okay.
ulcer, yes, that sort of thing. Then you have guinea worm. I don't know if
Right.
you've heard of
Yes,
guinea
yes,
worm.
yes, yes.
You've heard of rabies,
Yes.
scabies.
Yeah.
Even snake envenomment is a neglected tropical disease or condition, And then you have trachoma. I don't know if you've heard of trachoma. Trachoma is an eye condition.
condition.
It affects the eye. And the list goes on and on. Onchocerciasis, where you have river blindness.
Oh.
So these are some of the commonest ones that are here in Ghana. In Ghana, we have about 14 of them.
Okay.
That
I know about the
really-
sleeping one too as well.
Sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness is one of them. Is one of them. And interestingly, Ghana has done quite a bit of work when it comes to neglected tropical diseases, because the Ghana Health Service has at the headquarters, or the service is structured national, regional, districts, and sub-districts.
Yes.
So at the national level, we have programs that manage some of these diseases. For instance, you know that there's a leprosy program, there's a Buruli ulcer, there's an NTD program that looks at how do we manage these NTDs. So for Ghana, all these 14 that I'm talking about have been mapped, and mapping is one of the important things. It's like knowing what your problem is,
Yes.
going for it and listing it. Where do I have these 14 diseases? Who are affected most, and what do I do about them? Ghana has been able to do that, and we've been able to put in interventions. There are 3 main interventions that look at how we manage this, and if you probably would have heard, mass drug administrations, where we put children together, we give them albendazole, mebendazole
Yeah.
for the worms.
For the worms,
That's,
yeah.
yes, that's one
Okay.
of the biggest interventions that we do for NTDs in Ghana. The health service does. And then managing the morbidities. One thing I must say about NTDs is that they are not your typical kinds of diseases that cause death,
Okay.
usually. So that's where the neglect also comes from, because they are not the kinds of disease somebody would die from, per se. But what they bring is this devastation of disfigurements.
Okay.
And like I was saying, you have this huge
Yeah.
patch,
Yeah.
elephantiasis. You have huge, unsightly disfigurement of your legs and your limbs, goes the breast and then the scrotum and things like that. So that is the
Yeah.
thing about NTDs. They usually will not kill you,
Kill you, but it
they will just
disfigure you.
disfigure you.
But
And,
Doc,
and
you just mentioned usually. So is there a case of people dying out
oh
of
yes,
NTDs?
oh yes. Once it's a disease, for instance, let's take a condition like Chisto, where somebody has bilharzia and is bleeding,
Yeah.
or maybe I mean the urinary one is the common one that you see around, with people urinating blood and things like that. And then there's an intestinal one where people defecate and then there's blood in it. And imagine losing that level of blood, and then the treatment doesn't come. So going back to the intervention, we do the mass drug administrations. We make sure we treat the morbidities that come
Okay.
in the condition, and then we educate.
Okay.
So that's the 3 major interventions. So in the situation where the second one, which is treating the condition when it's happened,
Okay.
doesn't go well, somebody may die from it, because you can die from anemia,
Yeah.
from excessive bleeding from a condition like. So hardly do they kill, but they can kill, and they have killed quite a number. But their major style is to disfigure, destroy, and make you unsightly, and then these issues of stigmatization
Okay.
come in,
Yeah.
because yes, you have some unsightly looking leg, you can't go,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
All right. So with reference to this, we are celebrating the day, but then in terms of education, well, what is health? What are we driving towards? How are we tackling that? Because it boils down to education. People are in the rural areas, of course, in the urban areas, wherever it is. But in general, what are we doing as far as the education is concerned?
Right. So, I mean, one of the reasons why we would even want to mark the day is to increase the tempo of the education.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, because if it wasn't for the day, probably would prioritize something else.
Yeah.
But the Ghana Health Service has the Health Promotion Division now that focuses its energy to driving education, sensitizing the population on some of these things. And as the director of health of a district like Ayawaso West, our job also includes regular sensitizing. So we have a health promotion unit
Okay.
that today they are in some places, they are going to the Santana markets. They would also be visiting some schools
Okay.
and churches to sensitize people on some of these conditions, especially when we say they are neglected. I mean, people are dealing with malaria, people are dealing with HIV, and then some of these conditions are totally forgotten. I mean, you talk about soil-transmitted ailments or worms, and people are like, in Ayawaso West, would you get somebody? But there are people who actually have that. And
Because
then,
I would ask the same question, like,
oh, yes. So people, but they are endemic. It's endemic. Like I said, two of such conditions, the neglected tropical diseases, are endemic in every district.
Every district.
So in Ayawaso West, we have soil-transmitted ailments, and we have schistosomiasis endemic here. So we want people to know that they are here. Sometimes people have the symptoms and they will not report it, they will just treat it on the side, and then now they come in with complications. And you know the thing about soil-transmitted ailments when it comes to children, and how it affects their cognitive development and things like that. And they'll go to school, be sluggish, sleeping, not paying attention, and you'll be wondering what's the issue. But probably the child has worms. So we do this mass drug administrations to kids. And so if we go to a school in Ayawaso West and you hear it, don't be surprised that we are doing mass drug administration of albendazole in the school, because it's endemic here. So we would continue to educate the population and our communities about it. And we don't want it to be neglected, because as a matter of fact, the WHO is targeting that by 2030, you know, it's endemic in about 149 countries, in the poorest of countries, in Africa, Latin America, and in Asia. So the WHO set out to say by 2030, how about 100 countries eliminating at least one of the NTDs? So far, we've done about 50 countries. Meaning that if we put in some more effort and invest in it, by 2030, we probably will be able to do that 100 that we are looking at. So it's a challenge, the worldwide challenge, looked at by, the WHOs and things like that. And because of the issues that it comes with, the propagation of poverty, lack of school, poor health, and things like that, it's worthwhile that we put our energy into it and educate the population about it.
Right, so we're still here talking about World Neglected Tropical Diseases Day here in our studios, and Dr. Louisa has joined us to have that conversation. Now, the stigmatization bit is why I want to jump. Well, that's a social issue that I think it should be of great concern to the Ministry of Health. How are we tackling that as well?
Right. So, again, about the interventions for fighting NTDs, like I said, the three, look at the mass drug administration that we can do, look at how we can manage the morbidity, and look at how we can create the education and awareness around it. And one of the education and sensitization issues is the stigmatization and the social issues that come with it.
Okay.
You know that, like I said, people are disfigured. They cannot go to work. They have low economic performance because, well, if you have elephantiasis and you can't go to work, then it propagates this thing of poverty, you know. And also because of the unsightly nature of how the disfigurement looks, people stigmatize and socially exclude. I mean, people have lost their husbands and wives, marriages and things like that because of how something like that happens, and the disease is looking unsightly and things like that. And we are saying that this form of stigmatization in any form is propagating the disease. People are not reporting early. They would rather hide when the thing starts small. And by the time they come out, because now they can't hide anymore, the thing is worse. So thing is, everybody in Ghana is at risk of one NTD or the other. Because like I said, if it's endemic in every district, everybody is susceptible. So it isn't an issue of a special case of somebody being a certain way or living a certain lifestyle or some curse or whatever that makes somebody get a disease like that. Rather, than stigmatizing people and making people feel marginalized and propagating the problem. Why don't we rather come together, use that same energy that we would have rather used for stigmatizing, create the awareness and make people realize that, look, this is something that can happen to everybody. Once somebody has it, rather bring, because if you keep the person, marginalize the person, you can continue propagating and transmitting the condition, you know. So this thing about stigmatization, well, I always say it's human nature.
Yeah.
Once it doesn't affect you, you think that the other person
The
is
other person.
but the thing is, it can happen
Yeah.
to everyone, and it's not people have done anything wrong or special. So let's try and I think it's a passionate plea that the community members, we should stop. Try as much as possible. Yes, you would see it and be like, what is
What's
this?
this?
But
Yeah.
I mean, thinking it, expressing it, and actually moving to actually speak negatively to someone about it are very different things. And I think that we should really look at that.
All right. So, Doc, moving forward, let's. I know probably other regions are doing this, but you are here, and let's come or scale it down. So we are at Ayawaso West. So apart from the education, supposing probably they are out there in the market, you know, talking about it, letting people know that, yes, this is what is going on, don't neglect it. That supposing we have about, let's say, 20 people coming out to say, well, we have this condition and it's part of the NTDs. What is the health service doing as far as this is concerned? What are the things put in place to help these people eliminate that?
Right. So the health service works in various levels.
Okay.
So we must first of all know that we have healthcare facilities with trained healthcare workers who have the capacity to first identify, or let's say diagnose properly what these conditions are. So if anybody has any of these things that I mentioned and they think that, oh, they want to seek help in a health care facility in Ayawaso West. Once you arrive there and talk to any healthcare person in the facility, you would know that you would get the help that you need in terms of diagnosing it. And once you diagnose this, they would be able to treat it. And once you get treatment early, you know that your outcomes are better. The other thing, because they are disease of public health importance, once you go to the facility would liaise with the health directorate that and report that we've found, or a case like this has reported, and then would take the appropriate samples to the labs and get it tested and confirmed, and then would treat the case appropriately. The medications for managing or treating them are available. And so there isn't the concern that if you show up, we won't be able to diagnose this, or if you show up, we won't be able to treat it. Show up if you feel that you have any, and this is not just about NTDs, any health condition whatsoever. I think that people should be feeling free more and more to show up in our health facilities, build the trust in the health facilities that we can and provide the help that you
But are there
need.
free screening services for today?
So that's the thing. The interesting thing about NTDs is that we don't screen. They are not one of the disease conditions that have
we can screen
screening. No. Screening tests for per se.
It needs proper diagnostic.
Proper diagnosis, yes. So if you have symptoms, for instance, you talk about schistosomiasis, like I said, you have bloody urine or blood in your stool or abdominal pain, and you know that you've gone wading in some fresh water that you've heard has snails and things like that in it. You start having those symptoms, you can show up. And let us look at that. Now, in Greater Accra, for instance, you have onchocerciasis here, the river blindness, because the black flies have migrated this way. I
Okay.
mean, for some time now. So, and not in Ayawaso West, but in my neighboring districts like Ga East
Yeah,
and some
East,
part
yeah.
of
They are part of close to the coastal
yes,
side.
yes, and Medina areas, some parts of Medina area. They have actually had to do mass drug administrations with ivermectin for targeting, I mean, onchocerciasis. So it is that close to us, you know. And the interesting thing is these black flies are now, if it's in Ga East, it can easily be
Yeah.
be here. So let's protect ourselves, especially when you see the black flies. Let us know. That's the thing. I'll drop our number
Okay.
here so that if anybody sees any black flies in the districts, you can report to a health facility and let the public health community know that you're seeing black flies here. For those that are in my neighboring areas, we've done the mass drug administration, we've educated, let people know, at least wear some long sleeve clothes, and especially at night. And the interesting thing is that with a condition like elephantiasis, the female Anopheles mosquito that causes malaria is the same mosquito that is the vector.
So
that trans-
that one you can get malaria and
Yes, so once you are
goodness.
bitten by a female Anopheles mosquito, it could, at the point, be carrying your malaria and be carrying your elephantiasis as well. So the thing is, as a community, we need to take these parasitic conditions
Very seriously.
very seriously. If we are doing mass distributions of nets to our pregnant women that sleep in the nets, it's not only protecting you against malaria, it's protecting you against some NCD that you
Yeah.
could get. If we give I mean, sometimes we come around and we carry these nets and we are begging people, take it, and then like, oh, we are affluent people, we sleep in glass houses, we don't use nets and things like that. It's fine if you know that you are protected against mosquitoes, but for those that are not, we would still continue distributing these nets because it's protecting them against a certain vector that could cause some of these diseases aside malaria alone. So we are doing all of these things around to ensure that people don't get these conditions. And when they get it, we are there to also treat and make sure they get back their lives, you know.
So it's not that the center point of diagnosis is stationed. For instance, I'm still on the
diagnosis matter.
the screening things because we
Right.
can't be screened. So right now we don't know that. Oh, okay, we are stationed at, let's say, the American House.
Okay.
This is where we are. If you have any condition of this sort, probably come and have it done, because sometimes people have that phobia of going into the clinic or the hospitals or anything of that sort.
That's an interesting way to look at it. So the health directorates, the municipal health directorate for Ayawaso West has its office located in the Westlands community at Kofi Potofi Street.
Okay.
So around Sober Down. So people can find us there. I mean, in situations like what you're saying, and they want to rather deal with, not go into a hospital,
Exactly.
but they want to report somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yes, the office is open,
Okay.
and they can always report to that place for the needed assistance. But once you show up there, we'll know exactly what to do to help you. For those who have some kind of phobia for the clinic, or also they are worried that they will be stigmatized or they are not so sure, yes, they can always show up at our office, or the office of the public health office of the directorates.
What is interesting is that whilst you were making your submission, you mentioned that when you're out there giving out the nets, you would be like, oh, I'm in a glass house. So when I was looking up the whole NTD conversation, I found out that one of the causes is poverty and economical issues. So if we have a country that is on that radar of poverty, what are we doing differently with the government to show them that we're going to be losing our people very soon if we don't
Right.
cure this bigger canker?
Yes. So it's like I said, they are disease of poverty, and you've rightly said it. So the issues that propagates these NTDs, environmental issues,
Right.
poor sanitation, poor personal hygiene, lack of access to potable water. You know, so these are the things, these are the issues. So you take a condition like Chisto, or let's stay on the worms.
The worms.
The worms. So you have an environment where children, they are the most susceptible to
Yeah.
worms because they play around a lot.
Yeah.
They like to play in the sand.
anything.
They pick anything. You have an environment where there are no community latrines or private toilets. People are open defecating and anyway. And then children are playing
Yeah.
in the soil. They collect these excreta filled with worms and in their mouths. And then the eggs, so it's a thing of contaminated food and water.
Yeah.
So it's a thing of hygiene. So if the government wants to do something, it's about how do we improve the environmental sanitation of our communities. And I know that this government has, especially let me talk about Greater Accra, with the ministry, the minister has, introduced a number of
Honorable Kote?
yes, interventions, Operation Clean Your Frontage, things like that, all in the bid of making sure that our environments are clean. The municipal assemblies have sanitation officers that do. Those days when it was such a big deal, summer, they go around and things like that. Sanitation has improved over time, but it's still a problem.
It's still a
You know, so there is still more work to be done to improve the sanitation aspects, make water accessible, potable water accessible to people. Yes, you may live in Iowa, so where a lot of people have access to clean water and things like that. But there are people who live in the slums who don't have access to clean water and things like that. And so this issue, yes, it's you're right, it's a sanitation issue, it's an issue of poverty. So for those that are in the middle upper class who have all these things, and there are other people also who don't. And that is why these conditions are still around us, because we haven't been able to deal with the sanitation issues fully, you know. And so for the part of government, there's need to continue to improve that.
Yeah.
And for us as individuals, there's also the need to know as an individual that cleanliness is actually next to godliness. It's not just a biblical statement. It
Yeah.
actually has an implication on your health, you know. So once you are in some field somewhere doing open defecation, it would go around and come back to you, because when it rains, that excreta that you've left in the environment seeps somewhere and probably not come to your house, but goes to your grandmother's house or your mother's house with some other children. So we need to look at that. Personally internalize that this is a hygiene, sanitation problem. If I make a move, am I being hygienic? The government, what can the government continue to do with and for the people to improve this sanitation issues?
What is the theme for this year's celebration of NTV?
So we want to unite
Okay.
and we want to act. And at the end of the day, that unity and action should lead to eliminating these diseases.
Absolutely.
So that is what
Okay.
it's unite,
So unite,
act.
and then
Eliminate.
eliminate. I love this, but I think we should have added sanctions to it.
Hey, I say what?
Yes, because I mean, in as much as we want to eliminate things like this, you know, we are human beings. You will say something to somebody, the person will be like, "Oh, okay." Next thing, the person is doing
It's
the
going
same
back to
thing
do the
again.
same
So
thing.
what happens to people that we find, you know, defecating anywhere? What happens to people who are doing things at the end of the day? Oh, this is a water body, and you decide to just go put rubbish in there. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So I feel like sanctions, one way or the other, could help. We chill, doc, chill. So oh yeah, dear, need so yeah no. Nay, I'm now bear 24 imprisonment. 24 years straight.
Wow,
That's
you're so
right.
wicked. You mentioned
There's no
something about
wickedness.
the
It's just-
summer then. I do remember those days when they used to come to like homes. And it was such an effective
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Why can't we have that thing back in Ghana Health Service? EPA should partner and bring that thing back.
Right,
Set
so-
up a task force that will go after people for these things. Because Ghanaians just don't want to listen. And Zoom Lion has made it easier for people to have their rubbishes and stuff taken away. In fact, now there are private ones that you can.
Yeah.
But all the time in every area,
It just
there
doesn't
is-
sink in.
It's just not. It's not happening. So would you
you
agree with
recommend
me
that?
that we should recommend these things back into the system?
I'm smiling because you see, I work with the assembly.
Okay.
And so the assembly is like the government of the municipality. And we have all these departments, including health and environmental health. And environmental health is solely looks at sanitation issues. Recently, for my assembly, for instance, I was a West Municipal Assembly, we've put together a document on the bylaws for the assembly, especially on sanitation. That is looking at how, so the issue of enforcement comes
Yeah.
in, because we have a beautiful bylaw that's about getting gazetted for action. So once it comes in, then your matter of the task force being now empowered with bylaws that we have come together. We'll disseminate these bylaws, and then we use the bylaws and the backing that it's a bylaw and the sanctions therein to make sure that the environmental health department and its task force is able to do some of these things that you are talking about. Because if we put into the bylaw that, look, if you find that you've littered around or if
Yeah.
you've put rubbish in a certain way that is not acceptable, this is the fine. We need people to be able to enforce these laws. Our problem, really, in this country for me, when it comes to some of these things, is enforcement. Because we have the beautiful laws, but enforcing it becomes an issue. Because you have a whole lot of human things come in when you go out there to do your work. You meet somebody and the person says, oh dear, 3,000 be no, I say, waje.
Yeah.
You know, and forgetting that you've spared one person's life in quotes, but you've put some other 10,000 or more in danger because you've taken some small money and you've gone your way. Because the laws are there. My assembly has these bylaws, and when they get gazetted, would actually have this task force you're talking about going out there. And I hope that once we are able to get it gazetted and we get the task force in itself would be patriotic
And diligent
and
enough.
diligent enough
Not
to
going
be
to be
able.
taking all these.
Yeah. So, I mean, they used to be there. There's some. I used to work.
And it used to work, and they didn't used to care about. Give them
Yes.
10,000, they'll still catch you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
And
now
It has to come
our,
back.
I think-
life has changed.
I believe it has to come
Moving
back.
forward on the NTD celebration conversation, what are the unique things that we're going to be seeing as part of the celebration to drum the conversation even louder?
So yesterday, the national launch or celebration of the day happened in Adeso
Adeso, yeah.
in Eastern region.
Why Eastern region?
Well, I mean, it has to happen in a certain place, but I think maybe the choice was because of more of, I mean, why don't we go somewhere that we know? I mean, if you do it in a place like Greater Accra,
It might not make sense.
exactly,
Okay.
right? If you take it to a
rural area,
it makes
then it makes
exactly.
Is it that every single year it's
It
been
will
done?
change, you know, it will
Okay.
change. Yes.
That makes
So it happened there, and there was this grand day. But so the intention is to use TV media,
Okay.
social, radio,
Okay.
any avenue, and also in-person interactions with people. Like I said, my health promotion team is going to be having some face-to-face engagements with the market women, children, and that sort of thing. Because the thing we've realized that people don't really know that these conditions still exist. So we want to remind people that
Yeah.
it exists and then also answer people's questions. I like some of
Yeah.
the questions you've asked me about where do they go?
Yeah.
I mean, things like that. People may not even know where to go,
Yeah.
or because they think it's so special a condition, they probably think that our regular hospitals are not
Yeah.
open to
Yeah.
things like that. So it's an opportunity to engage media, and do increase the tempo of these in-person engagements
Okay.
with people, and then also mobilize this high-level stakeholder engagements. You know, things like that, where policymakers, experts, and the partners who would continue to
Invest. Yeah.
you know, invest in eliminating, bringing in money, because, you know, people have invested so much money. You're a poor country. It's not a problem in the West. And so why would an investor or a partner from the West invest in it? It's largely humanitarian, a public health intervention, and we need to continue to engage these partners on a high level so that together we can control and eliminate it, because we need to really meet that WHO target for 2030.
Yes,
It's a
where
must.
I wanted to jump into that a bit. You mentioned about how Ghana has done very well in tackling the issue or in handling
The NTDs.
The NTDs in Ghana. What is the statistics that are related to that conversation?
Right.
What are the numbers?
So currently in Ghana, we have about 3 of the conditions eliminated as public health, disease of public health importance.
Okay.
Completely.
Yes.
Eliminated completely.
Eliminated. So elimination simply means reduction to 0
Okay.
of the incidence of a particular infection or a disease in a specific geographical area.
Okay.
It's different from eradication,
Okay.
where you're talking about a permanent reduction to
Yeah.
0.
Okay.
So we've reduced these, some of these, like leprosy, trachoma, even the sleeping sickness you
Sleeping,
mentioned
yeah.
is on the verge of being eliminated as a
Okay.
disease of public
Okay.
health importance.
Okay.
You know, and
Not to cut you, but which one is the highest now?
which one is there?
I mean, in terms of the disease
Okay,
across board.
so we are dealing with onco. No, now onchocerciasis, the river blight is catching up. I mean, it's and it's in about 15 of the 16
Whoa.
regions.
Now you see
are-
why I asked that?
15 of the 16 regions are endemic for
Wow.
onchocerciasis.
15 of the 16.
Yes.
Hey.
So it's we need to, so that one is not the one of those ones that we've been able to eliminate.
Wow.
So there's a lot of money, human resources being pushed to that. And then in recent, as I mentioned, the Ghana East District and Co, you have the community-based drug distributors going around biannually, like every 6 months, to give the ivermectin medications to people, because it's the second most avoidable cause of blindness in the world.
In the world.
So why would we sit there? We know it's avoidable. Why would we sit there and have people go blind
Yeah.
because of that? So the service has been able to eliminate some of them, and sleeping sickness is on the verge of being eliminated. Before, elephantiasis, it used to be endemic in 116
Yes.
districts.
Yes.
Now we only have 7 of them, still having to do these mass drug administrations for. So quite a bit of work
I'm
has been-
interested in the leprosy bit. Up until recently, when the vice president started speaking on and being a part of supporting the issue of leprosy, I didn't know that it was a thing in Ghana. Yes, I'm serious. To be fair,
Oh, but, I mean,
I only read about it in the Bible, and
Father Campbell.
Yeah. At the wager.
I have never been
Wager leprosy.
introduced to that conversation. And that is to say that stop assuming
That people
that the conversation is loud enough about these NTDs.
Yeah.
Because when the team told us about the conversation we're having today, I said, let me look this up. And when I read some of the diseases that were under, I'm like, what? They exist in Ghana?
They do.
So that is the job
That's-
of. And yesterday, when we're having our political conversation, I did say that the civic society had the job to do. I think the Ministry of Health has to embark on a very
Massive
comprehensive campaign on these things, because we're just celebrating it for today, 30th of January, and then
What
we're going
happens
to
next?
sit down. So leprosy, for instance, from one of the news items we looked at today, and even prior to that, I found out that even after you're healed, which by the way is curable, people still suffer the stigma. And these are educational materials that need to be sent out by the Ministry of Health. We need all of this. This is how we sat down for COVID to come and carry our head away. and if we don't throw light on these things as much as they're supposed to, that's how your target might not be met.
Yeah, yeah. I like where Miriam is coming from, and I appreciate it. That you've media. I mean, you are one of our biggest partners
Yeah.
when it comes to health. And so we appreciate that you've even given us this opportunity to be here today to talk about this, because without you, our voices may not go as far. So we are happy. I'm happy that you've brought this up. We would
We're happy to partner
continue
with you.
partner,
Yeah.
continue to engage.
Yeah.
And I like what you said, that look, this conversation must continue.
Yeah.
Don't assume that some one day talking about NTDs is going to drum the matter
Yeah.
into people's minds.
I think
and-
when people are able to differentiate NTDs being eliminated from being eradicated, there they would start knowing that, yes, because they feel like, well, elimination doesn't mean that it's totally gone.
No,
You get it?
yeah.
Yes. I'm talking with reference to NTDs. Yes. So we can work towards that. But Doc, quickly, I don't know which of the diseases you would love to, tackle, whether it's the river blindness or that of the worms. But I believe that of the worms, because I think that is really,
Okay.
really common. But just in a minute,
Right.
this is a platform that you can educate anyone watching what not to do and what to do.
Right. So we call it the soil-transmitted helminths, and regularly called worms by everybody else. But we say soil-transmitted helminths because the worms, so we have the roundworms, the thread worms. So there are various kinds of worms in question here. Roundworms, threadworms, hookworms. They are all, these soil-transmitted helminths come from people feeding on contaminated eggs. So once you have it, it means you ate some food or drank some water that was contaminated by the eggs of these worms, and the people take it in. So your food or your water was contaminated, so it's person to person or it's direct contact, you know. So that's how you get it to begin with, and it's a disease of poor environmental hygiene. Poor personal hygiene. It affects children the most. And you know that children are our future leaders.
Yes.
Imagine a Ghana where more than 50% of our children have soil-transmitted helminths. They are slow.
That's chaos.
They are not able to concentrate well in class. It affects their education, so there's a lot of absenteeism. The children don't come to school. They get anemic. Once a child gets anemic, they are sluggish, their brain development is not that fantastic. So you don't have kids like that growing up to be who you want them to be. Issues of poverty, issues of bad health, and issues of economic issues, poverty gets round and round the cycle, you know. So the thing is, how do we tackle these worms? We come around the schools to give mass drugs, albendazole, mebendazole for the worms. When we come around to the schools, we usually would write letters to the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to inform parents that this is what we are doing and things like that. Once you see letters like that, with you hearing us today, you know these are issues, these are affecting the children. So we want parents to buy into these things and then when we bring the medications to the school, it is not to harm the children. Some parents, yes, I mean, I understand.
Yeah.
It's not to harm the children.
Don't come and give my children medicine in school.
Exactly. This is why we are bringing it,
Yeah.
and then they should avail the children for these medications. And then also protect the children in the environment. How do you protect your child from soil-transmitted ailments? Make sure that at least there's some form of household latrine in that house. Don't teach your children the bad habits of going to defecate in the environment. A child that is brought up like that will grow up as an adult like that, and not so. Let's try and put some of these latrines in our homes. Let the children use the latrines and things like that. Make water available for the kids to wash their hands. Building the culture of washing your hands with soap and water. Before Ghanaians, we are eating. We are going to eat. We'll eat with the unwashed hands, and when we finish eating, that is when we wash the hands.
Soap. With soap.
You know, but the thing is,
thinking.
you are eating that eggs of the worms into your stomach. So wash your hands and eat. And then also protect, because sometimes the larvae are in the soil. So when they are playing around and they are not in socks, things like proper shoes, the larvae can also enter the skin. So that's the little I'll say about it.
Thank you.
All right,
so much,
Doc,
Dr.
it's been
Louisa.
a wonderful one.
So how are we going to celebrate today?
I think
Yes.
we have,
Let's see what we have here.
we have.
Okay, so
Okay, so
they gave me
they should
do.
have act.
Okay.
I would have unite.
Unite and I have eliminate.
Yes, that's
Just
how
a
it goes.
So-
mid-year.
I am acting on eliminating or eradicating NTDs in our society.
I think we should go this way.
It should go this way.
Yes,
Unite.
it's unite, act,
Then you.
and then eliminate.
Unite. So unite for us.
As a child of God that I am, I'm uniting them.
yes.
Right, we're fighting this NTDs together with you. Wherever you find yourself, it is a collaborative or collective effort to make sure these NTDs do not take away our future, which is, like Doctor said, in fact, is very, very prevalent in the lives of children, especially the ones we talked about. So please, let's together fight this canker in our society.
Let's eliminate it straight up. Straight up. Yeah. So that's why I asked the doc to give us the do's and don'ts, especially with that of the worm infection. And I mean, as Mimi said, it doesn't stop here. The conversation continues. You get it? Yes, we need to continue. So AM Club, we're pledging. Yes, we will definitely make sure that we keep on stressing on this whole NTDs because you feel like, oh, well, yes, but it's still there. And as it keeps on going in, you never know. Doc is saying, oh, you might not die, but Charlie, you will die, So, Doc.
Thank you guys so much. And I like the one I'm holding because the unction lies on us, the healthcare workers, the most. So, yes, we'll continue to do this work, act every day to meet this goal of eliminating NTDs. It's so important to us, and we know we can't do it alone. So we are calling on everybody who is watching us, all our stakeholders, because I think with health, everybody is a stakeholder.
Everybody
is involved.
Come on board with us and let us act together to eliminate the NTD.
Absolutely. So this year's World NTD Day, that is Neglected Tropical Diseases Day, and we're celebrating it here on the AM Club, is duly launched. And so if you find yourself watching and you just joined us, NTD is neglected tropical diseases, and we talked about how it is prevalent in our society and we need to help eliminate, and we have to act together, united, to do this. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
This was
so
a very,
much.
very, in fact, this was a very educative conversation
Thank you
for
so
me.
much.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us on the AM
Thank
Club.
you for having me.
Hope to see you soon.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Okay, so that does it for our Lifestyle Daily for today. Coming in next is The Plug, where we plug into some events, into some celebrities, into some goods and services that you actually need to know about. So we'll be right back after this.